Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. And yes, this is, what is it? Thursday. And it's the Three Amigos. I almost forgot what day it was, but then I remembered it's the Three Amigos. So it has to be Thursday. How are you guys doing?
Doing awesome. Every day is not Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just going to start saying every day is Saturday because I get you have no idea. I wake up, I'm like, don't know what day it is. Who am I talking to? But anyways,
Hashtag real problems.
Yeah, first world problems. Hey, what I want to talk about today is probably something I need to talk about more. I think it's something the three of us should probably brainstorm off camera and how to push more people to think about this. But it's simply the fact as the easiest, the fastest, the most certain way for an 18-year-old, because you have to be legally able to sign a contract, to become a millionaire by or before they're 30 is to house hack. This is something I did not do. I have no experience with, but I have now seen both of you and interviewed other millionaires that are under 30. And I'm like, dude, we got to push this house hacking thing, whether it's house hacking like you guys did it, or it's house hacking like Todd Baldwin did it and having roommates. It is an amazing way to become a millionaire. And there's some do's and don'ts, but damn it, I'm going to say house hacking is the best way for an 18-year-old to be a millionaire by the time they're 30. What do you guys think? I'll start with Dion.
If it wasn't for house hacking, I would have to work until I was in my 70s, period. And I know that Graham Stephan house hacked.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he gets a lot of attention is, he was retired millionaire before 30. Yep. So that's a catchy phrase. But to me, what's important is that millionaire status can happen in less than 10 years.
Yes.
Even if you're starting from a bad position, whether you're 18, 28, 38, 48, or 58.
Yes.
The age bracket really doesn't matter, is that it takes 10 years.
A decade, yes.
When you're older, it's a little easier because you sometimes have the resources to save a down payment to get on the property ladder with rentals. Mm-hmm. When you're younger, it's more impactful because less down payment, better interest rate.
First time home buyer programs, yeah.
Yeah, first time home buyer programs, FHA will add a higher debt to income ratio and a lower credit score. But that can impact any age. And I try to tell people about this, but I think the word hacking is what turns them off. When I hear credit card hacking, I think way too lazy. I just want a credit card that gives me cash back and I can choose what to do with my cash.
Yeah, me too. I don't care.
Right. So there are people that look at housing that way. When they hear hacking, they think, oh, that sounds hard. And
we got to get it.
You have to live somewhere. Why not get paid to live there?
Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to come up with a new name. This is going to be something we do off camera, but we're going to put some oomph behind this because I think I love the fact that you've brought that up. It's a 10-year process, house hacking. And again, you were house hacking. When did you start? How old were you?
I made it to 40 without ever having $1,000 in the bank. At 40, I was divorced and had just found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name that I didn't know existed until we got divorced. Washington State is a community property state, so it's my debt anyways. And then she filed bankruptcy, so it's really my debt. And I was in law enforcement, so I couldn't file bankruptcy because that's a career killer. My debt to income ratio was so bad all of a sudden that I couldn't even buy a rental. I moved into an apartment from my house and rented out the house to get rental income on my tax returns. The next purchase, I couldn't buy a house. My debt to income wouldn't handle it, but I could buy a duplex. Because now that I had rental income on my tax returns, the income from the other unit of the duplex would be added to my debt to income ratio before purchasing the property.
Yeah. I want people to hear this because again, I'm going to put this video out and talk about 18, but it's a decade. And sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward, right? I'm going to assume that moving out of a house into an apartment is not a positive step forward in the view of your friends and all of that, but it's a huge step forward financially. It is probably the step that sets you on the path to a better future. Without it, you don't get anywhere.
It confused everyone I know because the apartments cost more than my mortgage did.
Yeah.
And I wasn't profiting from the rent. When I first started renting, I had that bad experience, but I set my rent at my mortgage. I wasn't even trying to cash flow.
Yeah.
Didn't understand that you have to pay taxes on the principal pay down. Like I was learning all this as it went.
That's funny.
But within 8 years, I made it to where work is completely optional. I never have to work again in my life.
That's awesome.
I'm in my second house hack now. So it's not like I have to do it over and over and over and over. In 10 years, I've only house hacked twice. But the one I'm in now is paying me $1,700 a month to live in a 1,200 square foot unit with a garage and a shed, 2-bedroom. I mean, it's everything I would want in a house.
and you're
but I'm being
paid to live.
there.
That is awesome. And then Matt, you come at this house hacking, newly married. I think you were married the first time, or maybe you were just engaged. But ninth grade dropout, didn't come from much. And how old were you when you house hacked the first one?
So at first I thought I was on the wrong channel when you said get rich at 18. I thought crypto borrowing on margin and creating NFTs in my basement so I could, sell them. I thought that was how it's going to get rich young. So my very first true internal, what I would call a private personal housing syndication. I actually bought my very first house and I bought it with a roommate. Okay. I bought it, my own mortgage, my own credit, all that stuff, but I had him sign to a lease, $1,000 a month to actually become part of the lease. So that was where I first got the idea. And then from there, and I was single then, and then from there started.
And how old were you? Sorry,
I was 23.
Okay, 23. Yeah.
23 there. So I know that Dion did a great video about this and where he talked about it's great for high housing areas. Admittedly, I bought an expensive, $365,000 condo was my first purchase.
Wow.
And so, but I only could afford it based on my income, based on my savings, my amount of down payment, and the fact that I had a roommate that was going to pay $1,000 or a little more than $1,000 a month into the kitty.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
And again, what really got me over the edge is we're having Todd Baldwin, which I think I mentioned to both of you, add content about roommates, right? He bought a $500,000 house at 23, right, in Seattle. Pretty, very expensive market. One of the most expensive markets in the country, certainly more than the median. And the reason he did it is because I think it had 5. I think he might have said 6 bedrooms, and he rented every single one of them.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, he lived there. He just sold it the day we recorded the video. 6 years later, he walked away with a check for $300,000, a little bit more than 300, and he was paid, to Dion's words, paid $25,000 a year to live there.
Yeah. Yep.
Folks, house hacking, roommates, yes, it may be uncomfortable, this, that, the other thing, but if you can get on the property ladder, live for free, or better yet, be paid to live there, it is worth it. Yes. And in Todd's case, he had a wife. I think he was married, if not girlfriend. They lived there with roommates. So it can be done. I certainly wouldn't do it with children, babies, but hey, in the beginning, you're newly married, 23, 24, 25, 18. Get on that property ladder. Go ahead.
Let me flip that for you, Mike. When you said you wouldn't do it with babies, we think house hacking, and that kind of puts us in this box. We think of having roommates. We think of small multifamily, but there are many ways to house hack.
Yes.
A house with an ADU, you literally have 2 structures on the property. So having kids would be not an impact on no shared.
Yeah, I was referring to roommates.
Specifically the roommates thing, right? And so I house hacked my way through the police academy because I had young kids.
Okay.
And the academy was over an hour away, and it's 12-hour days, and you've got defensive tactics training for 4 hours, so you're pretty much just dead and can't move. So there were times where I had to spend Monday through Friday at the academy sleeping in my car in the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't leave my kids at home alone, right? But I could rent out a room to a young couple with the caveat of, you guys are my 24-hour-a-day free live-in daycare.
Right.
So I house hacked my way through a police academy where I wasn't looking at the financial impact of housing.
Right.
But that daycare would have cost me an astronomical amount.
Yeah.
And then there are versions of house hacking that don't require shared space at all.
Sure.
Awesome.
Buying a house with an owner-occupied loan gets you that lower down payment and better interest rate. Living there for a year to satisfy that owner-occupied requirement and then moving to rinse and repeat that.
Yes.
Lets people house hack their way into a portfolio that ends up cash flowing too. So there's so many ways to house hack, and it's so nuanced that figuring out a way to get this in front of more people can help so many more people get started, especially when they have to live somewhere anyways.
Yeah, that's the key. You got to live somewhere anyways. Right. Yeah, you're either going to pay rent or a mortgage. Why not be paid to live where you are, especially as you're starting your journey? You got to get on the ladder, the low down payment, the lowest rates. Getting on the property ladder, 3.5%, 5% down is critical. And Matt, you created what needs to become like a high school class, the 4-3-2-1 strategy.
Thank you.
And that's what this was. If people were wondering what I was doing, I wasn't counting down the seconds for Dion to shut up. I was doing Matt's 4-3-2-1 strategy that you added to my course.
Yeah.
It is a way to become a millionaire. Buy a fourplex first, then
Yes.
buy a tri, then buy a duplex, and then buy a single. And that's important because the bank wants to know that you're moving towards single family ownership, right?
That's
if you
right.
start with a single family home, they won't let you, generally
They
speaking,
won't.
go backwards unless I'm changing jobs, I'm moving out of state, right? This whole
Correct.
other
And
thing.
that's with an FHA loan.
Correct.
That's where those restrictions kick in. If you can figure out conventional, some people like me, I couldn't have saved up the down payment for a fourplex.
Right.
Like coming up with the 20,000 took me over 2 years of a ton of overtime and being very frugal to get into that duplex. But the first couple of duplex made it very easy to save the down payment for the fourplex, but
Yes.
FHA wouldn't work that way. That's why the 4-3-2-1 method is so powerful, because it lets you use that loan product.
Yeah. And I know, Matt, you are helping at least a couple of people we've talked about start this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about their age and what they got in and the amount of money, because people need to realize, people hear fourplex and they think it takes, $50,000.
Sure.
And it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Lots of
it
places.
doesn't. I moved 9 times in 13 years.
Oh, people need to hear that.
To build my
9 times.
portfolio. So if you want to gripe about move, oh, I don't want to move, fine, don't be rich.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be rich.
Fine, don't be rich. So I moved 9 times in 13 years. That's why you get a throat punch when you call me lucky, because I moved 9 times in 13 years.
Yeah.
And trust me, each time you move, it costs more beer and more pizza. I'll have you know.
Yeah,
Every time it's more, because then they're like, you're gonna make me move again, aren't you? Like, yeah. So like the last couple, I actually had to hire movers because I was out of friends.
no trucks. Everybody's gone for the weekend.
Yeah, they were done. But so it's 9 times in 13 years I moved to do the house hacking. So to answer your question on the students, so one was a 25-year-old. He'd been saving up his money. He'd actually worked for me a couple of summers and then did some side projects for me. So he was super hard worker, nice kid, spent a lot of time with him. But he was 25 and he bought it with, get this, less than $9,000 down.
And what did you buy? A tri or a quad? I forget.
Quad.
Wow.
Less than $9,000 down.
In New Hampshire?
In New Hampshire.
Wow.
In New Hampshire. But the key to it was we found the right building with the right seller, with the right situation, because we were able to get, it didn't matter if he paid a little bit more and got all of his closing costs covered.
Mm-hmm.
That was a better deal because it was that much less he had to bring to the table.
And he got a 203K loan. Do I remember this one right?
So he did try to get a 203K loan.
Okay.
And we couldn't get one because all of the contractors were like, I'm not filling out that paperwork.
Oh,
and we went to
a
dozen. They're just like, I don't have to fill out the paperwork for this. He's like, and one of them literally said, he goes, if I do this, I'm going to charge you twice as much. And I go, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
why?
Yeah. I was like, okay, forget it. So we ended up going literally within like a couple weeks left trying to get this closed, switched over to just a regular FHA loan. And that's what he did. Closed with less than $9,000 down.
Wow.
The next one, she actually just did an interview on my channel. Her name is Emma. She's absolutely fantastic, super hard worker. She's your typical Generation Z that doesn't get enough credit. She busts her ass. She works all the time. Side hustle, side hustle, side hustle. I said it 3 times because she has 3 side hustles. 3. So she has a full-time job, 3 side hustles. And that's why when I talk to her, I go, okay, you can be one of my students.
Yes. Like, I'll give you some time.
Yeah, I'll give you some time because that is not time wasted. So she's amazing. But again, she's put away at 23. She has 4 figures, well into 4 figures in savings. She will likely, right now, she's getting her money right. She's building credit because she didn't have credit. So she's building credit now. But in the next 6-12 months, she's likely going to land a fourplex. At 24, like, changing lives, Mike.
She will. Again, if she keeps that going, which I don't see any reason why Emma won't, she'll be financially free by 30. No, there's no question.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. So Dion, you do a lot of work with Bigger Pockets and a lot of people out there. What are other stories you have heard or impacted young people getting started with house hacking? Do they get it? Do they appreciate it? Do they think it's a scam? What's going on?
Well, the people who've done it swear by it.
Yeah.
And the people who haven't usually have, if you really want something, you find a way.
Yeah.
And if you don't want something, you find an excuse.
Ooh.
So if they want financial freedom, they will find a way. And house hacking is a way to get rid of almost all of the barriers to getting into real estate. Because like I said earlier, you have to live somewhere. And if you can turn that into a way that gets you on the property ladder and starts getting you cash flow, And so many people outside of Bigger Pockets in the financial communities like Choose FI and a bunch of other blogs out there focus on the latte factor.
Yeah, the $5
reduce or
latte.
eliminate these recurring expenses, and it will add up over time instead of taking your largest expense and reducing or eliminating it. I don't know that everybody that I interact with is as lazy as I am. There's some the person that has, 3 side hustles.
Yeah.
As a single parent raising 3 kids, working full time, the last thing I was looking for was another job.
Yeah.
Flipping the Burr method, all the steps involved with that, using a 203K loan to do a fix, anything like that to me probably would have stopped me in my tracks.
Got it.
But having to live somewhere, moving somewhere, and only moving twice, I didn't even move as many times as Matt. The last move took me from a duplex to a fourplex, where I'm being paid $1,700 at the fourplex. Now the duplex is cash flowing $800. So one move added $2,500 a month to my cash flow without me having to do any work. I didn't even have to buy beer and pizza. I got moving down to a science. In your area, find the local 2 guys in a truck company, and probably will have a different name, Starving Students, whatever it is. It was less than $300. I went to work from the duplex. When I went home to the fourplex, all my stuff was there.
Nice.
Didn't have to bother anybody else. Didn't have to move anything myself. That's the power of house hacking, is it doesn't take having an extra job.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of units. Each month that cash flow adds up.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about is reducing or eliminating your housing costs. None of this is talking about appreciation, principal pay down, or that since I'm not having to, if you're paying $1,000 in the mortgage and now you're living for free, that's really a difference of at least $1,300, because you had to earn taxable income of $1,300 to have $1,000 left to pay that loan. So getting rid of that housing cost is your tax bracket more than that amount of money.
Totally agree. Yeah, this is something that we're gonna have to talk about offline, because we're gonna have to push this more and more, because it is the fastest way for most people to become a millionaire, and if you stay at it long enough, become financially free. And I think it's something that I think the 3 of us can do some pretty good damage with. So we need to brainstorm this offline. But before we do all of that, let's wrap this one up. Matt, how can people find you?
Lumberjacklandlord.com, Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube, 11:30 Eastern time this Sunday after Mike's Financial News. We're going to be doing another live stream, and hopefully not 3 hours.
And Dion, how about you?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I will be doing a live stream someday, just not sure when, not today. And one last thing to wrap up with, to give credit where credit's due. One of the things I really like that Brandon Turner of Bigger Pockets says is that house hacking is like having training wheels for being a landlord. It lets you start renting out units or bedrooms or something to someone else in a place that you could cover the mortgage on yourself if you had to.
Very cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mike.